Hey everybody, welcome back to Andertons TV. And was it not for a single letter of his surname being a single letter different to mine, he would also be an Anderton, which is kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
So we have Chris Alderton here from the Amazons.
Thank you for having me.
No, not at all. And this is lovely, really, because I was saying to Chris, one of the joys of my eldest daughter now just, getting into her teens and sort of, beginning to discover new music is that I'm now discovering new stuff. And a few months ago, I heard a cool song on the radio, waited to the end. Fortunately, the DJ said who it was. I then kind of checked out a bit more of your music, went, oh, this is cool. And then I did what I do, which is I sort of email younger people that I know in the industry and go, does anybody know of this band called the Amazons? And Ashlyn at Victory came back and said, yeah, I know them. I think I've spoken to Chris before about stuff. And I'm like, hook me up. And she did, which is great. So I'm super pleased. And tell us a little bit then about, because I'm coming across like the Amazons is some new band from 2024 or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously a bit out of touch on that.
We'll take that. We will take that.
Tell us a bit about the band and how you guys all met. 'Cause you're not far from Guildford either, are you?
No, so yeah, we're all based in Reading. And we've been there for a long time. Most of us are still there, which, maybe we didn't particularly want to do, but that's just how it is. We met at school, mainly. Me and Matt, the lead singer, met at Theo Green Community School. Mm-hmm. And he was in a band with Elliot, who's the bassist, sort of from like a local rock school, the School of Rock, if you will. And they brought me in as the guitarist because they needed a bit more juice. And wasn't something I ever really considered would be like a career path or something that I really wanted to do even. Yeah. But it just ended up being really fun and stuck to it. And that was in probably like 2013. Right. Us three have been together since with various different drummers and various different bands. And now we're in the Amazons. Our debut album came out in 2017 and we just released our fourth in May. So the core band is you on guitar, a bass player, and Matt on vocals. That's right. Yeah. So okay. So do you have like a Spinal Tap drum problem? Is that the? Yeah, they just spontaneously combust. We just can't hold on to them long enough. No, we had an incredible drummer who sort of brought the band up to where it is now with us, called Joseph Emmett. But he just had a family and.
Curse those.
That's how it goes.
Family children problems. Well, so look, for those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with the Amazons, it's just a great rock and roll band that have got a great catalogue of kind of tunes that are catchy and maybe a little bit more sort of indie flavour through to some heavier stuff. It's exactly my kind of music. Excellent. So you should check them out if you're not familiar. But let's talk about guitar and when you were growing up and. Who were you listening to and getting inspired by, as in your formative years?
Well, when I wouldn't say I had a particularly musical upbringing. There was a piano in the house, and my mum and dad liked music. My mum's a big Thin Lizzy fan. My dad really likes David Bowie, and then some other bands I've never really got Sweet and Bad Company. I'm not particularly
Bad Company's good. Sweet was proper sort of British glam rock. Yeah. Sort of stuff, wasn't it?
So I don't know. I guess the music was all in the house, but it never set me alight. I was much more into video games and tennis, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, it never really clicked for me. But then I picked up the guitar after my best friend at primary school. He gave me a burnt CD of Rage Against the Machine live at the Grand Auditorium.
Proper introduction.
So not even their records. It was a live CD, and I just completely fell in love. And we had a school disco
that year. Then?
Probably 10.
10. I took my kids to a skate park in Guildford. So random. This will get back to Rage Against the Machine, and there's a dozen kids, all from the age of 6 to 10 years old, whatever, going around the crash helmets on the skate park. And then this older guy came along, put down his boot box, put Rage Against the Machine on massive volume, and then you can see all the parents going, I'm not entirely sure how appropriate the lyrics to these songs are for my 7-year-old daughter. Yes, and just saw the skate park gradually sort of all the kids go, come on, it's time to go, dear.
What do you mean? The two things go hand in hand. That's perfect.
It's just brilliant. That's the way to. I think that is the way to get someone to go, whoa, what's that? And how do I make that noise? Because that is. So that was it, was it? That hearing that sort of Tom Morello stuff first time?
That was it. And I think a massive part of that band being such a big influence on me is that it's really just not that hard to play.
Right.
Like, aside from the insane solos that Tom Morello's doing that no one knows how he does.
Yeah.
But, you know, like Guerrilla Radio is like 4 notes.
Yeah.
And that was stuff that that same best friend, his brother, could play all of it. And when we were playing around his house playing Halo, he'd be playing it upstairs, and I'd be like, wow, I would love to be able to do that. So I originally asked for a bass from my parents.
Okay. Because
we were going to start a band in primary school.
Yeah.
And that friend, Ben, he could already play guitar. So it was like, well, you're going to have to play a bass. And I asked my parents, and they were like, we're not getting you a bass. You can have a guitar. They're the same thing, and guitar's cooler. And I was like, okay, fine. And then, just went to like weekly lessons with a guy called Alan Weikart, who lived down the road. And it wasn't really theory-based. He was just like, what do you want to learn? And we were just going to learn it, which I think is what probably...
Killing in the name of.
Right.
Teach me it now.
It's probably what kept me playing, because I think if it was theory stuff, I probably would have lost interest.
I'm still staggered now how I think it's unbelievably easy to get kids interested in playing guitar. You do exactly that. What music do you like? Okay, let's show you some of that. But it kills me, you know, when you hear kids going to guitar lessons and out comes some 40-year-old guitar teaching book trying to show, and instantly the kids are like, I don't know what any of these songs are. I'm not really interested.
Yeah, right.
That, you know, you need to be pretty determined over that first few months of learning to play, don't you? You just got to get into it and overcome a little bit of like frustration stuff. If there's no like goal of going, oh my God, I can play the song I wanted to play after, you know, no wonder so many kids give up.
And even now, if I'm trying to learn a song, it's so much easier if I have known the song for, a while.
So fair play to your tutor. What was his name? We should give him another shout out.
Alan Weikart.
Alan.
Shout out.
Well done.
What a guy.
So we're talking roughly when? I sort of, you know, I haven't looked up your age, but
Thank you.
Considerably younger than me. But what sort of, when are we learning? When are we talking you're in your teens?
So this would have been probably like 2004, 2005.
So what are we right in the middle of in 2004? We're sort of that new metal era.
Yeah, I guess like a lot of people at school were really into like Limp Bizkit.
Yeah.
Enter Shikari were huge at school.
Any
and
of
a lot
that
of like the emo stuff.
Any of that ever really?
No,
never really into it. I don't hear a lot of influence of.
That's good. Yeah, we don't have any
Wes
like DJs scratching at the back. Yeah, what did I really like at school? Like
it would have been Kings of Leon kind of era, or is it before?
I just wasn't into new music at the time, so I never really had a Kings of Leon era. I think it's still in me.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'd really like them.
There's definitely. I think if you were sort of, you know, there's another example of a hugely successful band that, you know, was it just a good middle of the road kind of rock band that just, you know, good guitar sounds. I'm trying to think if 2004 was even slightly before then. The whole last 30 years is just a blur for me. I can't remember.
But I imagine you can hear that in some of the songs for the Amazons, because like they're a big influence, just not from me. That's more Matt and Elliot. Well, I love that band.
That's what I was saying before. On the deep sort of dive that I did on the Amazons, I want you to take this as a compliment. I can hear flavors, like, you know, a recipe where someone's dropped different herbs in, but I can't really. And those flavors are, you know, I sort of sometimes I think, oh, is there like an Arctic Monkeys flavor to that sort of way that song is done, or sometimes it's heavier and more rock and roll, and like you say, Kings of Leon and that, but I never get the sense that I'm listening to a rip-off of one of those band's songs.
Perfect.
I just get a sense of like, ooh. And I guess now it's impossible to write anything nowadays without feeling, you know, there's only so many chords, right? So.
Yeah.
Did you have a guitar hero, a guy you wanted to be when you were, you know, 15?
I have always loved David Gilmour, but I will preface this in like specifically for Dark Side of the Moon. Mm-hmm. I like their other records, but Dark Side of the Moon was like a really eye-opening, like a full album is something that you should immerse yourself in, and I've been doing that ever since. So I'm more of like a favorite album person than like favorite artist most of the time. So David Gilmour was big, and then the stuff I was learning with my guitar teacher still at the time, like he really liked Gary Moore. I actually don't know any of Gary Moore's songs, but I could probably play them. I just don't know what they're called.
Right.
He was really into Eric Clapton. I was a big Muse fan. which is probably dead center of that period we were just talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
I think Matt Bellamy is massively underrated as a guitarist.
As an everything, as a composer.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But there was like a trend on TikTok a few months ago, and people were doing best guitarists of every decade. And the Naughties, I can't remember who it was. I think it was some like sort of flashy blues guitarist. But for me, Naughties is Matt Bellamy. By like, just easily.
There's another band I need to go and do a deep dive on. Just like, as in, I think I probably only know the songs that got airplay from these, you know, so I need to go and...
Yeah, listen to Origin and Symmetry, Absolution. You could probably leave the rest, but those two are unbelievable classics.
Yeah. Do you think the Amazons might ever go slightly more proggy with it? Like, I often wonder what would happen to an album like Dark Side of the Moon if it was released now. It would be just pigeonholed into some super obscure prog.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know. It probably wouldn't hit the mainstream. I doubt that. But I feel like...
It's an amazing... Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean I don't like the album.
No, of course. It's
an amazing album.
Yeah, but what would happen if it got released now, I think is an interesting question. I think just music fans would eat it up. Because there's albums like Frank Ocean's Channel Orange was kind of like quite conceptual and had those sort of like things in the break, maybe not quite as atmospheric, but still. There was an album from Little Yachty.
I don't know.
Beginning of last year.
I've heard of Frank Ocean, but I've not heard the album. So.
And that was, I think it's called It Starts Now, maybe. And that was a complete curveball because he's like a mumble rapper off SoundCloud,
right?
And he obviously just paired up with some producers who probably loved Pink Floyd and were just like, let's just make it, but with like auto-tune vocals on the top.
Wow.
And that's one of those records that I think it didn't hit the mainstream, but me and the rest of the band listened to it and were inspired by it. So I do think it would still go, but I guess albums are less sat down and listened to in the same way now.
So if we go through, so you've learnt to play, got to a reasonable sort of standard. What was the point in your life where you just thought, I might do this for a living? Or was it, there was never that point, like the band was always just mates and then it was like, maybe this might be a living?
Yeah, it was probably the second one.
Right.
We were playing for fun, but we were never really doing covers. It was always, we played original songs, maybe with a few covers in. There was a local band called Tripwires, who are now called Ulrika Spacek, and they're from Reading. And they were a huge influence on Matt.
Right.
And we used to cover their songs.
Right.
Just like we played them at the
bar.
bar.
I've heard of Tripwire for some reason, but I'm not sure.
I still listen back to their stuff and I'm like, this is great. They never really took off, which is a shame, but they're killer songwriters and really nice guys. Yeah, so we were always playing our own music. So it was always, the band was always serious. It was always like, let's try and do something. But I constantly had just kind of like a gentle reminder from my parents of like, maybe you should have a backup just in case. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went to university to do, it was a science degree in like the science of how sound works, like how a microphone works, how an amp works.
That was not the Tonmeister thing at Surrey, was it?
I tried to do that one, but I didn't get in.
So where did you go?
I went to Oxford Brookes.
Okay.
And it was called Sound Production and Digital Music. It's very sadly not a thing anymore. But I feel like it was, I guess, similar to Tonmeister in that it was essentially setting up engineers that would design speaker cabinets and PA systems for venues. I loved it. It was really fun. I think it sort of tickled my nerdy, sciencey side and brought in the music side as well.
Yeah. How's that shaped your approach to how the band sounds or how you make music? Or is it just just still there as the backup plan for it? The Amazon all goes pear-shaped?
I think it's just allowed me to have like a real confident control over how to get the sound that I want.
Yeah.
I think that's probably been the main thing. And then more into like setting up the Amazons as like a live show. I'm the guy who's like spearheading like how we get the click going and what's the backdrop going to be and how do we put that out there and all of the boring stuff that no one really wants to deal with. I'm actually quite happy doing.
How did you keep the band going then if you all went to university and did you guys presumably separate universities?
So it's just me.
Oh, okay. So
I went to university. The other two worked in Waitrose.
Right.
And carried on. Actually, I think Elliot did like a diploma.
The most middle class sort of start to a band I've ever heard in my life.
Pretty much,
two in
yeah.
Waitrose and one went to university.
I was doing university and petting zoo was what I was doing to make money on the side. We were still writing sort of, because Oxford's not far away from Reading,
Yeah.
so I would just drive back sort of for the weekends and we'd sit in Elliot's house and just try and write music. And we got signed, I think, in my second year.
Right.
And then I talked to my my university lecturer.
Yeah.
I just said, I've been signed, like, what do I do? And he was like, if you don't leave, I will kick you out.
Yeah. I think most of the time in this, you get one shot, right? Or you have a pretty small window before something else takes over, whether it is family or life or career or whatever like that. And yeah, you have to. It's probably the one thing that I regret when I went straight into the family business and very, very quickly just went, you know what, band is going to have to take a back seat for this. And and so I just have to accept that I'll never know what might have been. I'm reasonably certain I've done a better job as a shopkeeper than as a guitar player in a band, but you'll never know. And I guess what's so important is whatever would have happened, and it's amazing and great that you're having success, at least you knew. At least you know.
Yeah, right. Where it could have gone.
Yeah.
Or where it did go.
Yeah, or just you tried, you rolled the dice, right? And you got the 666, but I just think if you don't roll the dice, then you know, who knows?
It was left wondering, yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. And so you were like old-fashioned signed, like to not one of these bands that sort of proactively tried to avoid labels and all that kind of. What was that day like? What was the phone call?
So we'd had a lot of sort of contact with the industry. We were in a band previously to the Amazons called Peers, and we weren't signed, but we were managed by a company called East City Management, where they were looking after like Alt J and Wolf Alice. So it sort of felt like a big deal. We were 17-year-olds, I think, but we got dropped by them.
Okay.
After we sent them some really bad music. We sort of lost our minds, spent too much time, essentially just not taking it seriously.
Okay.
And yeah, we sent them some real crap, and they were like, I think we've probably reached the end of the road. So yeah, we got picked up by this other label, Fiction, a few years later, and it was basically because we got a real kick up the arse from being dropped, and we were like, oh no, we actually have to really have a good go at this. So it felt great because it was we were trying to make that happen, and we'd had a fair amount of buzz previously, and we'd made a point of not going to London. That was like our big statement. It was, if anyone is actually interested in working with us, they'll make the half-an-hour train ride up to Reading and come and see us. So yeah, it just honestly felt like hard work that had sort of paid off.
17 sounds incredibly young to be trying to sort of navigate the pitfalls of signing a deal and having a management company. Have you got some horror stories of things that you signed and wished you hadn't, or did you have great advice? Or you sound like a intelligent, level-headed guy. Were you quite a mature 17-year-old in sort of knowing what?
I wouldn't say I was a mature 17-year-old. I wouldn't say any of us were. But we've always been supported really well by our family, and they would just make sure we weren't signing anything that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And also, it seems to be a strange trend that the first people to get in touch with you as like a young artist is a lawyer.
Right.
So we had a lawyer the entire time, and our lawyer was advising which management companies would be a good match and potential labels that would be interested. And I think, they're obviously doing it so they get a cut of the deal, but at least it means no one's getting screwed over, as long as they're a good lawyer.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So I think, we've probably been quite lucky in that respect, but yeah, I would attribute most of it to our family, just really helping out with that stuff.
And did the first record deal, that's what funded the first album, was it? And then kick on from there?
Yeah, it wasn't a massive deal, but we did a record with Catherine Marks. Actually, we did an EP with Catherine Marks that I recorded in my bedroom.
Okay.
I think between my bedroom and one of the classrooms at the university that I was going to. Catherine mixed that, and that went really well. So then we did another one at a studio called Assault and Battery, which was run by Alan Moulder and Flood in West London. And we did that with her.
And are you just, at this moment, are you just pinching yourself, living the dream?
Totally.
17 years old,
Yeah.
record deal. What were the kind of venues that you were, was there a relatively immediate step up in the size of venue you could play, or was that still a bit of a journey for you?
Definitely a journey. We've never had anything really handed to us, so it doesn't really feel like it. So we were doing toilet tours for a long time. We did a lot of the Purple Turtle in Reading. And then, I can't remember some of the stuff we did in London. There's a place called Catch 22, which I'm sure is shut down now. But tiny, 200 cap venues. And we would just get in the back of 2 cars. I would load up, I had a little Vox AC15 that I've sadly had to retire in the last month. And stuff a drum kit into the passenger seat, and we would just drive around the country, usually driving back to Reading for the night to save money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun at the time. But looking back, I'm like, we really put ourselves through it.
But the first album got a reasonable amount of critical acclaim, right? So it was a good launch pad for you to sort of
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And does it feel like, so that's 8 years ago now, isn't it? So, and you say the album from this year's the 4th one.
That's right,
So you're doing a kind of album every other year at the moment. Is that a pretty, I mean, that sounds like a pretty normal, release tour. Is that a fun, which is your favourite part of that sort of cycle?
I think it changes depending on how long you've been doing one or the other. So if we've been touring for, 2 or 3 months, I'm like, I want to get back in the studio, and the same vice versa. But I think overall probably do prefer the studio because it is where I can really put my stamp on the sound and the music, and selfishly that's just the funnest bit.
Yeah.
It's sort of expressing myself in whatever way.
And I said when I was doing my sort of Amazon's deep dive, I was just letting Apple serve up whatever, and so I wasn't really paying attention to whether I was listening to a song that was from this year or 2017 or whatever. I didn't necessarily correlate, I can really hear the band changing, but that might just be because of the way I was listening to it. Yeah. But you seem to think there has been I don't know what, we didn't really use a word to describe it, but yeah, there's been an evolution of the band's sound.
Yeah.
How would you describe that, and is that, what is it that drives that change?
I'd like to think every one of our albums has quite a distinct personality and sound. First record was, the classic collection of songs we've written since we were 15 or 16. Some songs were from that previous band, Peers. And they were all influenced by bands like Kings of Leon, probably, Bombay Bicycle Club, we were all really big fans of. That kind of British indie scene was a big sort of push on what we wanted our sound to be like. And then the second record, we sort of discovered what influenced our favourite bands. So we were getting back to Led Zeppelin, The Who I really liked. I started watching B.B. King videos. Yeah, a ton of the Delta Blues guys, I can't remember any of their names off the top of my head right now. But yeah, got into that, and that is really what pushed that record. And there could only be a certain amount of guitar tracks on every track, so we wanted to sort of recreate that limitation of tape that they would have had back in the day. And then just had more fun with sort of not necessarily worrying about whether or not it would sound good on the radio. We just would get in the studio and play, and if the song was 6 or 7 minutes long, then it was going to be 6 or 7 minutes long.
Good for you.
And that was really fun. I loved recording that record. That's Future Dust.
Is that the one on the front? It looks like you're in a cave.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
That was the one, if I was on my phone going, I like that song, I wonder which... That's the one I think came up more. So would you say that's the most experimental proggy kind of vibe?
Probably,
album?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm sure the other guys in the band would have a different interpretation of this, but I feel like that was one of the truest expressions of who the Amazons are. I think because we were coming off the back of the first record and we were essentially feeling good and happy about what we were doing, we weren't really worrying about any external influences. So it just came out and it felt really good. There was a song on there called 25 that we wrote in a day, and we just sort of banged around these chords, and then I did a solo in the middle, and I was like, that was cool, and then the song was written. And it's a stupid song because of that, but there's nothing wrong with that, and it was just super fun to put it together.
That's great.
Third record was done over COVID.
Right.
So that one is much more really is much more Matt focused, the lead singer. So he wrote all of those songs on an acoustic guitar, like in an attic in Brighton. So I'd say it's probably slightly softer, a little bit poppier. Not my favourite, but it still has some good songs on. And we had a good time recording that with a producer called Jim Abyss, who did like Kasabian and Adele, and he was like sort of
amazing.
The first like really like big name producer we worked with, which was a really like enlightening experience. And then this most recent record, 21st Century Fiction, I think we've sort of shaken off some of the woes of the pandemic and essentially sort of given up trying to, I don't know, given up trying. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But just like, we're not trying to like impress anyone. We're just sort of, we sort of trying to...
You're comfortable in your own shoes now, right?
Right, yeah.
I think I've probably heard that before from, you know, it's the first album is often years and years and years of songs that have been going round and round and round, and then there's always pressure on the sort of second and third album, and then you just get into your stride, right? And you know who you are, and you're all grown up a bit more, and
I think that's pretty much it, yeah. And it was me and Matt would have conversations in the studio as we were like starting to demo the songs, and the idea was to essentially write this album as if it was our last one, because it very well could be.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, of course, let's hope not. But like, there's no point going like, oh well, let's not do this now because we'll do it in the future. We were just like, let's go all guns blazing. Yeah. And we had that same attitude of, you know, if a song's 7 or 8 minutes, then great. Yeah, let's extend it.
I genuinely, I didn't skip a song, and I think with streaming, that's the one thing I think we're all sort of guilty of nowadays. You know, if I go back to when I first started buying music, you know, it was such a faff to skip a song. You never did, you know, whereas now it's like, but I didn't skip a single song, and I really, really enjoyed
thank you.
The whole lot. So I'm hopefully I'll come and see a show at some point or whatever, but I will definitely be you'll stay on my playlist. But we are a gear channel, and I always think gear is the great leveler. Doesn't matter whether you've bought your first guitar or you've sold 100 million albums, everybody still wants to know, what's that pedal? You know. So let's talk about, I mean, you've bought 2 guitars with you. Let's talk about your guitars and your passion. Are you a hoarding guitar collector or a minimalist sort of, you know, I've got 2 and that's it?
I think I'm a recovering addict.
Okay, this is good.
I've had a long collection and like period of just sort of seeing a guitar and going like, I want that, and I'll just get it. And
what drives, is it a visual thing and you just go, oh, that is cool, or is there I don't know, have you heard a sound and you're thinking, I'm trying to find that, what's the driver?
It sadly probably is visual.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing sad about that. We're all as vain as each other in guitar. You know, everybody talks about, oh, it's got this feature and that feature, and all that really matters is, does it make you feel like, wow, that looks cool?
And don't get me wrong, obviously the sound is important.
Is it though?
But it just comes secondary to how it looks.
As long as it makes a sound, that's fine. It just needs to look cool.
So I mean, this SG actually is a prime example of that. It was a guitar that I saw on eBay, and it was this horrible orange color. It didn't have all these marks on it. It was just flat orange.
Yeah.
And I thought, that looks cool. I'm going to buy that. It was from the US. It came over, and I got hit with import tax, which I didn't know had existed until that happened. And this relatively cheap guitar became very expensive. And from when I picked it out, the sort of box it came in, it was evidently just slapped on paint in the garage by some bloke. It had his handprint in the back of it. And the paint just peels off. You can just peel it off with like the back of your nail. And it's been, it didn't sound good. It sounded horrible. But I still played it because I had to. I
kind of think here this is going to be a lesson, kids, for things not to do or things that you shouldn't. So I think it's a wicked looking colour. I'm into the colour, but absolutely this has been applied with little or no knowledge of the correct kind of paint to use, which is why it's all kind of flaking off. But then I think that looks double cool as well. Yeah. So you've changed the scratch plate, or someone's changed the scratch plate at some point, which is why I've got the holes here. You've changed the bridge.
Yep.
I don't know if we can get a close up here. Why did you change the bridge out of interest?
So this, can't remember what make it's made, but this is a wraparound. So it's supposed to not have the stop bar on it. So that was the plan, because I really like the look
I
of
knew I was
having
looking at this going, so you've got two tail pieces on here, effectively. One that you're using, which is, right. Yeah, so what, okay, sorry to interrupt, but so why?
So I wanted that because there was a guitar in a studio in London called Hoxha HQ, and it was, I think, a melody maker.
Yeah.
It was like faded Pelham blue, all checked. Like, it just looked beautiful, and I loved it. And it had the two empty holes here, and then a wraparound, and I was like, I just want my guitar to look like that. So I took a drill after buying that new bridge, and I just had a go. Without really measuring anything, without thinking about whether or not it would break into the electronics cavity, and that's exactly what happened. So I had to take and get it fixed. But if you take a closer look at that guitar, I did do the scratch plate adjustment,
right.
And you can see there's quite a large gap here.
Yeah,
and also the neck pickup is pretty wonky.
Remind me never to ask you to fit a kitchen or anything like that. So, so here we have the problem of this is obviously not designed to go here, hence the reason all the saddles are struggling to find a point at which the guitar's intonated properly. But it kind of look, you know what? It's got a cool thing. I do like what you've done up here. If you, we'll need a super zoomed in close up here. So obviously Gibson guitars are notorious for having, you know, G strings that are difficult to keep in tune, and people talk about the way the string goes over the nut and then the string goes off sideways to sort of hit the machine head. And you've got this like cool like triangular device in here that keeps the strings straight over the nut, and then the break angle is kind of further up. So that hypothetically makes
on
it stay
paper
in tune
it should
more.
work.
So down here we can't get it in tune, but up here we've done an amazing job of keeping it in
it's
tune.
a careful
so
balance.
Bit yin yang kind of works somehow. But I think this is a great example of how, you know, your import duty aside, this would have been such a great guitar for someone you know, trying to, without much money, to just get themselves something super cool, and then you can sort of mod it up. And
totally, yeah, and I jumped to the opportunity, and I'm a firm believer in, evidently, I'm a firm believer in messing about with your guitar and making it your own. I think it's a much more, I don't know, I think people can be too precious. I think you can make any guitar sound good if you put enough work into it.
I want to talk about the doozy because that's just a wicked looking guitar. But what else haven't you bought today that's maybe iconic in your collection? And on an Amazon's gig, are you like, I've got 2 guitars and that's it, or have you got like a rack of 20 guitars and you change it every song?
So I've been trying to stick to 2. I'll usually have this one as my main one, and then currently that one as a backup. But other guitars I have, it's quite a long list. But ones that people might know, I have like a 2002 custom shop non-reverse Firebird in like transparent white.
I've seen pictures of you with that. That's very cool.
I love that guitar. It's got all gold hardware. But that one, because it's so long, it won't fit into the touring case I have, so I can't really take it on the road, which is a shame. I have a black SG that I played for a long time. I've got a white Stratocaster that was one of my first guitars that I've also changed all the electronics in, put some bare knuckle stuff in there that I really like. Actually, shout out to Monty's.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you know about them.
I know Matt well. Yeah, so these are Monty's humbuckers, aren't they?
And those, truly, that is why that guitar sounds good.
Yeah.
Because nothing else is pushing it in that direction. It sounds amazing.
He is a very talented, just general guitar repair guy, but yes, when it comes to pickups, he's found some amazing sounding stuff.
I was blown away by these ones. So there's a lot. There's more than that, but that's
good. But that's cool. Looking at, you know, you're a very well groomed man with a, you know, smart gear. I'd pick that guitar for you. I think that's you found a sort of a soulmate in that guitar. So
I've built my style around this guitar.
Is that what it is? The guitar's dictated the image.
Yeah.
Tell us about what drew you to the doozy then, and why it's become such an enduring guitar for you.
I think I've always just been a bit of wanting something that's slightly different, like bright orange guitar, and in this case just a guitar that wasn't a Fender or a Gibson. I love those brands, but I just wanted something a little bit different. And specifically, I saw an artist called Kieran Callahan, I think. He's an Australian artist, extremely strange. And he played guitar on a Triple J session with Andrew Wyatt from Mike Snow and a bunch of like the Queens of the Stone Age people. And I think Kevin Parker was playing in that band. But this was like a collection of all of like my favorite people playing in a band. And I watched that so many times. And this guy, Kieran, was playing the Double Cat, Duesenberg.
Yeah.
And he kind of has, I guess, like some Tom Morello sort of sounds going on. He plays with his pedals not on a board. He sets them up just in a perfect circle around him and just like spins around. And
It's like the Jean-Michel Jarre.
exactly, yeah, with the big keyboard,
like
yeah.
that. Yes.
But anyway, it was so out there and completely just like captivated me. And I was like, I have to get one of those. So for my 21st birthday, I asked for one of these.
That's really cool looking guitar.
And
Have you seen the Julia? That's my probably
Yeah,
my
it's kind of like the
favourite.
sort of Jaguar Jazzmaster shape.
Yeah, it's got
on
like
it.
the two switches down here at the end, and it's got this wicked looking kind of, I was going to say tortoiseshell pickguard, but it's almost like, it's beyond tortoiseshell. It's almost like leopard skin, you know, it's just like, it looks wicked.
Yeah, I haven't played one of them, but they're cool for sure.
It's a great brand. And you've got P90 at the neck and humbucker at the bridge. Does that suit the sort of the stylistically, you know, giving you sort of some softer and more aggressive tones?
Yeah, kind of. I think I just got a new Duesenberg. I got the Phantom Series A, and it has, I've forgotten what these are called, but it has a humbucker in the neck as well. I do think it's a bit too harsh. Maybe I'm just used to this. But I find switching to the P90, I'm only ever really going to want to have clean tones at the neck, so it does just kind of make sense. And when you want to rip raw, this guy does it.
You mentioned you had an AC-15 for a long time. So was that your first kind of, did that kind of shape a lot of the vibe of the Amazon stuff then, that sort of very British chimey kind of, or have you had loads of amps?
Yeah, it's pretty much only ever been that. I wouldn't say it really shaped the sound much. I mean, maybe just by proxy, but
Yeah.
I had it, again, just because I liked how it looked. And I liked how it sounded as well. I did like how it sounded. I went to, there's a shop called Dawson's in Reading that sadly is closed now.
Another demise of British retail, but yes, I remember them.
And I went in there and I got, that was my first tube amp. And that was sort of when I realised that you could like have a tube amp like just on the cusp of breaking up, and then you could use your pedals to control when it hit that threshold. And that was super like eye-opening.
That moment of discovery, I think, from like stellar crystal clean, hyper overdriven, lots of good sounds there, but like the moment, you know, the epiphany moment or whatever you want to call it, is that just like, oh, there's that sound is there where it can just like how I play, what pedals I decide to put on, I can go into all those.
It's like discovering 3D. You think there's suddenly a whole new dimension of, from like the playing perspective, is how you can now not only choose what notes you're playing and how hard you're playing them, but also how they sound out of the guitar, which I think is huge.
And all those early, like the old, an early Vox or an old Marshall JTM or even like an old Fender Tweed or something, they've all got, that's the magic in those amplifiers. They sort of just sit in that space.
Yeah, and I've always loved the little combos because they'll do that and not destroy your eardrums.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, I kind of feel like, you know, the guitar amp is such a, the sound that comes out, I think, you know, everybody talks about, oh, what pickups have you got, what guitar have you got? And I kind of go, 90% of the sound that you're going to hear is what pedals and what amp have you got? You know, what's the source in the pickup is a relatively small part of that.
Yeah.
So, but has it always been like, have you gone for the Voxy, you know, sound even after you retired the AC-50? And obviously I see Ashlin's sorted you out with a copper, which is Martin Kidd's spin on that kind of EL84 60s British kind of tone.
Yeah.
What happens, you know, if you were to swap that out for a Fender or a Marshall or something else, does it just not sound right for you, or can you get sort of in the proximity anyway?
I think I could always make it work with my pedals if I needed to. I play with a Fender Twin when I'm playing live. I have like a whole stereo set up. But I don't know, there's just something about AC-15 that just sort of feels like home. It's probably because I've always had that amplifier. But it's just, I think specifically is the way it breaks up for me is just quite gentle. It's not really over the top.
Yeah. It's so full and rich in the mid-range in a way that no other brand of amp, or, you know, that circuit, you need that Voxy style circuit to do that. It's, I love it as a rock and roll amplifier. I just think I actually think I admire people who play Vox amplifiers more because in isolation, I actually think it doesn't feel like it sounds as good as a Marshall or a Fender, but you put the band together and all of a sudden it just kicks ass.
It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, Victory's pretty new to me. I've only had this for about 2 weeks now. But it feels like the AC15 in its sound, but I would probably say a little bit better. And then this like bass cut and the mid boost switch just give you so much more control over what you want to get out of it. I feel like I could probably use just this in the studio.
I mean, before Victory came out, you know, there was brands like Matchless and Bad Cat had really taken that sort of Vox AC circuit to like a whole another level. And I think with the Copper, I think Martin's kind of gone down more that route than just trying to do an out and out copy of an AC.
Yeah.
It's still an amplifier that every time we, you know, end up using one in the studio here, I just, oh man, such a good rock and roll amplifier. So, pedals, my absolute favourite thing in the world. I mean, you better explain your multicoloured rainbow of a gig rig switcher there.
Yep.
I mean, so for those of you who don't really know what a gig rig switcher is, I'm talking about this thing here. And this is all of the, pretty much all the pedals on the board, I guess, are looped into the gig rig, right? And then you hit a button and it'll put a combination of them together. And it's a great way of utilising lots of pedals. When did you first discover the wonderful Dan Steinhardt and his marvellous products?
So this was recommended to actually the lead singer of the band, Matt. He had a guitar tech who basically said, like, you don't want to be tap dancing whilst you're singing, so let me get you a gig rig. And Matt had like, I think maybe 3 or 4 pedals at the time. So it was a little bit of an overkill. And he eventually ended up downsizing to one of their smaller ones. Yeah. And when this was just left in the lockup, I was like, well, I may as well have a go at that. So yeah, I looped everything in and started labeling it.
I just think I'm just loving how organised you are. I sort of feel like if I walked into your kitchen, do you label like that's where the jam goes and that's where the Marmite goes and that's where, or is it very much just a pedal board?
I do think this stuff stays in the studio, thank God. But yeah, I do like to have things really organised, and it simply gives me comfort that I'm like as prepared as possible for anything to sort of go wrong or whatever.
So they're all song names or parts of songs, aren't they? These
so
words.
This is like Doubt It, Mother. It's a song called All Over Town.
I love that song, by the way. It's a great song. Listen to Doubt It.
This is One by One. It's one of my favourite songs off the third album. In My Mind. And then each of the colours is each of the banks.
It's abbreviated song names and everything. Yeah. You've really got to be on your game. How do you know what colour bank you're on then for the? Does it just? I'm not super familiar with gig rigs. So how would you know that you were on yellow as opposed to blue or whatever you need to do?
So this switch manages the banks.
I see.
So we're on bank 1, which would be pink.
Right.
And then I've used 5. So 5 would be red. And then, yeah, there's no real way of telling that it's on that. You just sort of have to know.
I do like it. Okay, so let's talk choices of pedals. I think I'm going to be hyper familiar with your delay and reverb choice. And I kind of feel you've just done you've just gone, what do all the good guitar players use for reverb and delay? Oh, right, I'll get one too. So
pretty much.
Have you got the new? That's not the new Big Sky though. We could sell you something there. You haven't gone down the Big Sky X something or other.
You're gonna upsell me to someone else.
But they're great pedals. I'm just trying. Do you love sort of enveloping yourself in gigantic delay and reverb and just?
Yeah, I think it's always been a really big part of my sound. And the stereo thing I was talking about is something that really makes such a massive difference when we're playing live. The main reason I have it is the majority of my parts I'll have straight down the middle, so each of the amps are playing the same thing. And then whenever I'm doing like a solo or a chorus, I'll switch the timeline to like a ping pong delay. And you can just hear it just go like this, especially in my in-ears because it's so stereo. Yeah. And it just, gives you like a real kick when you're hitting it live. We might as well, hear a few bits. this is like I should explain.
Yes.
You mentioned about how these are just the good pedals that everyone has. The only reason I've got these is because you can control them with MIDI.
Right.
Because previously I was having to do these and then change all of the reverb settings when I wanted to have different ones, or have several different pedals for every type of reverb. So the reason I got these specifically was to change it between songs. So I really only have 4 settings on these.
No, it's fine. I want to hear like the big ambient reverb. Oh, you got a bit of shimmer on there and everything.
So this would be for Black Magic. Like big, and if we had 2 amps up, you would feel it like really go around.
Do you have to go like a wet dry thing if you're playing live, like where one amp's completely dry and the other, or can you get away with just like double wet and?
Yeah, no, just give my front of house an absolute nightmare and pile on as much as I can.
Good for you.
I would say so. I use the quad cortex at the moment when we're touring just for convenience, but this is what I'd have in the studio.
That was interesting. I mean, because I think I saw you playing on. You were doing some Somerset House gigs that must have been relatively recent, and I sort of spied the quad cortex on the floor, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So that's a born out of convenience, but again, studio is you've got the time to set this up, and then live you just need to be able to go boom.
Yeah, I mean, I've been resisting that for years because I love all of this stuff, and I just. I've been building this for such a long time, it's very difficult to let go of it. But it's essentially just, we can't afford to take a bunch of stuff on the road, and this makes such a big difference. And if we don't have to have, my 2 amps behind me and we can just plug it straight into
Isn't that,
the PA, it's kind of,
It's just the cost of touring the gear is just expensive, isn't it? I can't remember who I was, it might have been a Foo Fighters tour or something like that, but, obviously a big world tour, but it was like $1 million in just freighting backline on a world tour. It's like, what?
And we can't afford that. But like, if we go to Europe, it's probably okay because we could just chuck it in the back of a van. But if we're going to America or anywhere else where we have to fly, if we're renting gear, it's like probably with all of our stuff and drums, like close to $1,000. And like, we'll very often not be making that back. But if we have these, we can chuck that in a backpack.
I still find that, and I know it's talked about a lot in the news at the moment, it's several artists going how hard it is to just try and make a living touring, and I still find that just flabbergasting that a band that can get to the size of that you guys have got, and I appreciate it's not Led Zeppelin yet or anything, but it's like it's a good band, with some good support under you, still talking about the difference between £1,000 taking some gear versus QC is the difference between whether you guys have made any money out of it.
We are.
Which is just nuts.
Still penny
so
pinching.
buy the t-shirts, right? And just support. I tell you who I did like, well not, I read his, bigger act again, but I was, Keith Scott, Bryan Adams' guitar player, is now QC, is that QC or Fractal? I can't remember. One of the two is front of house, but on stage he's now like, I don't care that I'm not even sure it's mic'd up or anything. It's just I want to hear my 2 bassmen with my pedals, and front of house can have QC. And I was sort of going, maybe that'll become more of a thing, where it's just like, because I get all the upside of QC, but there is a certain, like, if you just want to stand in front of something, what you really want to still hear is your old AC15 or whatever, your familiar pedals.
Well, I mean, that's sort of what I'm doing. I have the stereo outputs out of the jacks on the back of the QC into 2 amps behind me on stage.
Fine, so you're kind of doing that.
And then the rest of it goes to the PA.
Yeah. Right, now, what else have we got here? We've got you've got a tuner, but you've written something weird. Oh, is that just different tunings?
Yes,
okay,
the different tunings. So
you use a lot of different tunings in the songs then, do you?
So yeah, usually the heavier songs, particularly on Future Dust, are in C# standard.
Right.
And almost everything else is in D standard.
Right, okay. Then we've got an OCD. That's appropriate, I think, given what's everything on your board here. So even your pedal's called an OCD, which is a great overdrive pedal, and I think probably most people will be familiar with that kind of gritty sort of martially vibe. You don't see many of these around though, the Teisco Fuzzes.
Yeah.
Where
I
did you
don't
pick
even
that
know
up?
what that's called. Maybe it is just called Teisco Fuzz. That was something, I have no idea where it came from. My manager gave it to me. He was just like, oh, someone gave this to me and I thought you might like it. And I was like, cool, man, yeah, I've never heard of these guys, but whatever. And it sounds great.
Yeah.
It's
Teisco's like
weird.
Teisco's one of those original Japanese crazy guitars from the 70s,
Right.
or might even be late 60s. But you know all the mad switches, all everything that's there. And then I think at some point within the last decade or so, someone's bought the company and issued pedals and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's a kind of funky. I do remember that they had a few pedals. I remember the fuzz being a good fuzz. But yeah, let's remind ourselves what sort of. That, and maybe what happens to me if I have a pedal like that is I will invariably play something different.
Yeah.
So how many of these pedals can you credit with almost like the origins of a song? Like what pedal have you had where you've switched it on and just all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, you're riffing and then that becomes something that pays for the pedal?
I'd say the Pog, probably. Had a lot of
Classic.
fun doing that.
Yeah.
And that's been an absolute mainstay. I think it was one of the
Yeah.
first pedals I got. And that was to make it sound like there were more people on stage than there were. And just having an octave underneath lead parts just kind of makes it feel like there's another guitarist on stage. And then it's sadly not part of my setup anymore because it got replaced by these. But I had a flashback.
Oh yeah, just the TC delay.
Yeah, the TC Electronics one. Is the X4 one, one of the really old ones, because I think that actually was the first pedal I got. And that has like a looper on it.
Right.
And I've written so many songs using that. Just putting in like a loop of chords and then playing whatever solo I was trying to write over the top of it. And sometimes it's as simple as that. That's all you need.
I love looper pedals. I definitely want to hear something with the Pog. I'm a massive... I just think, and I'm a huge fan of like a Royal Blood and guys that have really made massive sounds from not many people.
Yeah.
And the Pog has enabled so much cool music like that.
I think I've always used it probably more as like more of like a sweetener than, I wouldn't say it's particularly like Royal Bloody in it.
Right.
Some
Not like heavy riff
crazy,
type thing.
yeah, it's quite light.
Which is that the OCD and the Pog together then?
That's
those
right,
two?
yeah.
Yeah. And that's like your go-to drive sound, the OCD?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. All I want to do is just turn everything up louder, just so and then we've got some couple of other Electro-Harmonix pedals, another fuzz then. So
Yeah, so these really, the Tesco and the Big Muff, they're really placeholders because I moved what used to be on here onto
I
this
see.
board.
So you've got is that a muffaletta and what's the Earthquaker? I can't see.
It's an Eruptor.
Right. Okay.
And the Earthquaker Devices Eruptor is probably my favourite pedal.
Right.
Ever.
I don't think I've ever. What is that? A fuzz? Just
It's
like a big
fuzz,
one
yeah,
knob
but like
fuzz pedal.
super like gross and gated. It sounds like the reason I got it is because I would often be recording on like my little Focusrite at home, and if you just turn that up to max with the guitar plugged straight into it, it sounds quite good.
Right.
And that's kind of the closest thing I could get.
That is
to
so
a
like
pedal.
dirty, de-eyed.
Big time. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like a bee stuck in a jar.
Yeah, I've
kind
never I think I can think of a few songs that I like that, but yeah, I've not personally done that sort of just straight into a desk, crank the channel input and see what happens. But it's become a thing, or I say become, No, it's always been a thing,
Yeah.
hasn't it? Phasers.
So yeah, the big muff is, it would be a muffletter if I had the choice. I like this pedal, but it's not my favourite.
Spark, great. Everyone needs just a boost on the all valve amplifiers sound better if you boost them. It's the law. Not a lot of modulation on here then. I mean, I guess you'll have a little bit in the timeline and stuff.
Yeah, most of it comes from that.
Just the phaser then. What's a sort of song that you might put some movement on like that then?
That would usually be just for like moments.
Right.
Like if I wanted, I think there's this a song called Junk Food. I just need to remember what this is on. I would just turn the phaser off once we actually went into the riff.
Yeah. I love how certain, and phase is a great example. It will become absolutely iconic with that riff. Like if you play the riff without the phaser, people will go, doesn't sound.
Yeah, it doesn't sound.
It's not quite right, is it? And then you add the phaser in, like, there it is.
But that's been something on this latest record. I've rediscovered flanger.
Yeah.
Incredible. Completely underrated. I love that as an effect. And a lot of the solos, we just put like just enough on just to give it like this sort of movement. I don't think it's particularly obvious, but
I think, you're ably demonstrating here why soundmen like quad cortexes as opposed to microphones in front of amplifiers. Guitar players love to knock their microphones over. And then last but not least, by the looks of things, we've just got a bit of compression. Is that a sort of another always-on type thing?
Yeah, so that's not plugged into the gig rig.
Oh, I just noticed there. So that is an absolute always-on before anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a funny... I've only really this year, I blame Taylor. Well, blame, it's the wrong. I credit Taylor. Of just like, please Lee, can you just use a compressor all the time? And it took me a while to not miss the sense that I sort of had more dynamics. But now I've just got used to it, and I listen back to what is recorded, and it's definitely better and fatter sounding as a result of always having the compressor on.
Yeah.
This looks like you've had this for ages as well. So is this one that's been with you for a while?
Yeah, it's been on there for a long time. I think I had the exact same realization as you had, or that Taylor gave you. And yeah, it was mainly, I feel like a lot of my solos have like big, long bends in, as David Gilmour was a big influence, and that just helps them stick around a little bit longer.
Well, I like this. I mean, this is, what I like about these kinds of pedal boards is there's plenty of stuff in here that younger guitar players or people just on a more of a budget will be looking at this going, that I would say there's at least 5 pedals on here that are under £100 each. So it's like you don't have to go crazy splurge mad and spend thousands and thousands of pounds.
And if you put my 15-year-old flashback back on there, it wouldn't make that much difference. And it sounds great. I love that pedal. Yeah,
it's a cool pedal. Well, let's talk about then we'll wrap up with sort of going, we're kind of summer of 2025, and you've album was launched in May, 21st Century, loads of cool songs on there. You sort of pulled back a little bit from the festival thing to sort of put all the focus on the tour that's coming up later this year. Although you did Glastonbury, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, just come off the back of Glastonbury.
So yeah, I mean, that would have been a fun... You actually finally had some nice weather at Glastonbury for a change.
Yeah, possibly too nice. If I'm
was it a bit
really
of sunstroke British. Was there?
It was very hot, yeah.
Are you now in full getting ready for the tour mode? Like
pretty much.
Working out every day, chops for days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm out doing my exercises every morning.
Yoga.
Yeah. So we go on tour October 21st to November 2nd. And we're going all over the country. I think we're finishing in Glasgow, doing Manchester's Albert Hall, which we're really excited about. I haven't been back there in a long time. And London's Roundhouse.
Nice, that's a great venue.
Yeah, that'll be our second time there. I'm psyched.
And pinch yourself moment on a couple of the support gigs that you've got before then, or how are you feeling about?
We're doing a few shows with Queens of the Stone Age. We were supposed to play with them last year, actually, in Italy, but Josh Homme had a hernia.
Right.
And it got cancelled.
See, that's why I told you you've got to stay in good shape, man. It's just like
he wasn't doing his
yoga.
exercise.
He wasn't doing his yoga.
Yeah. So yeah, we're now coming back to that this year and picking up where we left off. But yeah, I'm very, very excited.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah,
that will be amazing. So look, at the Amazons. Obviously, you must when you chose that name, someone must have gone, this could be a Google disaster here, because there's another Amazon that's probably dominating Google searches.
We've been waiting for the email.
Really?
We've been waiting for the email to be sued.
It's just great publicity, isn't it? So I have to be honest with you, you type in the Amazons as opposed to just Amazons like that, and you're all over the first page of Google, so it's really, that's fine.
We're making our mark.
So please, if you're not familiar, go check them out. I promise you, if you like guitar-based kind of rock music and stuff, you will find songs that you like. And yeah, I mean, it'd be fun to see a show, and the Queens of the Stone Age thing's going to be a riot. Man, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
And well done as well. I just think it really feels like there are more and more British rock bands now that are kind of coming out hitting the scene. Doesn't all have to be about dancing and being in a boy band anymore. You can actually be in a rock and roll band. And
damn right. Yeah, and we're
absolutely.
trying our best to make that a reality and make the shows you'll come and see in October hopefully some of the best you've ever witnessed.
I think that it's going to be a good few years. I can feel it in my waters. So thank you so much for coming down. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. If you did, please like and subscribe. But that's basically it for the day. So au revoir. See you next time.